I wanted to go over section 2 from chapter 23 with you this morning. So here we go. I think this is one of my favorite pictures of Tenochtitlan. It kind of gives you an idea of how it started in the middle of Lake Texcoco and spread out, and then it gives you a glimpse of what the plaza looks like inside, and then the causeways coming from these directions that connected it to the mainland. Here is a few pictures of when Cortez is crossing the causeway, getting into the city, and the clashes that come as he is trying to enter the city, the fall of the city. Here's another really cool map that Cortez and the Spaniards had created in 1524 of what the city looks like from an aerial standpoint. And here's another cool picture. Okay, so let's talk about the city in general. So we know obviously that Tenochtitlan is the capital city of the Aztecs, but it did develop into one of the largest cities in the world. Like I mentioned before, 1519 is when the Spanish first arrive into the city, and they are just amazed about how the city looks with the canals and the temples and the palaces. At that time, the 200 to 300,000 people living there was larger than London, Paris, or Venice. So any of those medieval cities that we had talked about in the beginning of the year, it far outnumbered those cities in Europe. So how did they turn this little island into such a great city? Well, they began to they used reclaimed land from the lake by sinking timbers into the water to serve as walls. And so this is an example. This is called a chinampa, all right? And then you fill the timber with mud, with reeds. They're called floating gardens. You can see sort of what they look like here. So this is how they built their farmland, which is pretty crazy, on these small artificial islands. I can show you another picture. Here we go. Okay. This is like what a real life chinampa would look like. It's pretty cool how they were able to do that. Gradually, it grows into a magnificent city, like I mentioned before. At the center is our large ceremonial plaza. This was used for religious gatherings and feasts and festivals. An 8-foot wall was studded with sculptures of serpents that enclosed the area. Palaces and homes of nobles line the outside wall. Then you have the Great Temple. This was a big, large stone pyramid that was located right in the center of the plaza. It stood 150 feet high into the sky. They said that you could see the pyramid from miles away. It was decorated with many different sculptures and murals. It has 2 steep stairways leading to double shrines at the top. And that was dedicated to the chief god Huitzilopochtli. The other is dated to Tlaloc, which was the rain god. In front of the shrines stood the stone where the priests performed the human sacrifices. So this was the altar. It was called the skull rack. We talked a little bit about Mayans and their thoughts and how their beliefs in human sacrificing. The Aztecs were way more intense in regards to human sacrificing. So here in the skull rack displayed thousands of skulls from the sacrificial victims. we talk a little bit more about that later. But again, there's many shrines and temples. There's the Pocatello Ball Court, military storehouses, guest rooms even for visitors. And then you have the Royal Palace, which is 2 stories tall, and it really was pretty remarkable, the fact that it functions like a small town. So it not only served as the house to the Aztec ruler, but it also had government offices and shrines and courts and gardens and storerooms, even a royal aviary, which I always thought was pretty cool. And inside this sort of zoo, it has trained staff that would pluck the feathers from the parrots and the quetzals and many different wild animals, such as pumas and jaguars, etc., that all were in cages in the Royal Zoo. So you have the Royal Zoo and the Royal Aviary. Main Marketplace was located in the northern part of the city. They say about 60,000 people from all around the Aztec corners came every day to sell their products and to buy such wares. Remember, the Aztec Empire didn't just consist of Tenochtitlan, the capital city. It consisted of many different cities all over that area of the Valley of Mexico. So you had luxury items such as jade and feathers. You also had gold and silver and turquoise, animal skins, clothing, pottery, chocolate, vanilla, tools, even slaves. So the city actually spread over 5 square miles. There was the 4 avenues that meet at the very center of the city, which would be the Great Temple. Another cool fact, they have thousands of workers that would sweep and wash the streets every single day. They said the streets were much cleaner than the streets that we would see in European cities. They had pine torches that would light the walking ways at nighttime. People would travel on foot through little sidewalks or on canoes in the canals. The large causeways that connected the island, the center island, to the mainland stretched 5 miles. They were 25 to 30 feet wide. The video shows they do a really good job of showing you how these causeways were built, so make sure you pay attention to that. The wooden bridges would raise to let the boats in. I think one of the coolest things is that they created these aqueducts, just like that we learned about in ancient Rome and in the great cities in Europe, from the Chapultepec Springs that were 3 miles away. And just like how they did in Europe, one pipe would be being cleaned or repaired, the other would transport the water. They had a dam 10 miles long that ran along the east side of the city, hold back those floodwaters. So it was a pretty remarkable city. You learn a lot about it in that video. Okay, so go ahead and continue to do your vocabulary terms and fill out your reading notes, and that is it. Good job.